change is the only constant. So be open to it. Hey y'all, welcome to Meryl's Mystic. I'm Meryl, and I empower witches, bitches, and dudes to complete themselves in order to have healthier soulmate relationships and more purpose-filled lives. And today we're here to talk about upcoming Cancer season. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, right as I start, the train is going by. You can probably hear the train. I have to have the windows open because my house is almost 100 years old, and it's hot in Colorado right now, and I can't have the fan in here because then you wouldn't be able to hear me. So you get a little more skin this time, because I kept trying to wear my little cute little shrouds that I have, but it is way too hot, and I spent way too much time on this face to let it sweat off. So I wanted to share with you also kind of my style of reading, because I haven't really done that lately. I am a certified tarot reader. I am an astrology junkie. I've been doing astrology longer, but I don't have a full scope knowledge of it. For some reason, I'm still like grasping all the houses and the conjunctions and like the whole chart thing. It's a lot. But I know enough to connect it with a lot of the tarot stuff. And then I'm also a psychic medium, and I've been really focusing on strengthening those skills that I have. And so there's a combination of reading the cards, but also just like receiving and hearing the messages from my guides and your guides, and just the universe and the divine in general. And also I've been really tapping into the messages that I've been just receiving over the last like decade or so, when I really kind of started being on this path. And the image of the bridge always comes up for me. There's very much, my purpose on this earth is to be a healer. And that really means to help empower you to heal yourself, and to be a bridge from the physical to the spiritual, and also to be a mirror. And that is why I share a lot of personal stories with you, is because I'm hoping that my experience and all the lessons I've been learning are gonna shine some light on maybe your experiences and the lessons that you're meant to learn here also. Because I truly believe that we're meant to come to Earth to do work together. This is where the work happens. This is where the lessons are learned. And so my goal is to share the natural energy with you during these natural cycles, because I really believe the more we're in touch with that, then we're more in tune with ourselves. And the more we're in tune with ourselves, the more we can be in harmony with each other in the collective. So anyway, here we are. It is almost the summer solstice. It's warming up, so it's almost officially summer. So it is the start of Cancer season, and Cancer season goes from June 21st to July 22nd, and it is represented by the crab, and it is a cardinal sign because we are at the beginning of a season, and all the cardinal signs are at the beginning of seasons. Cancer season really helps. Gemini season ushered out spring, and Cancer season ushers in summer. So the other cool thing about Cancer season starting is the day after, on June 22nd, Mercury goes direct. I think it's still in Gemini. I don't know for how long, but there will be like a 2 to 3 week shadow period after that. So although it's great to hear that it's gone direct, because this was quite a retrograde. It was kind of the retrograde of retrogrades, and there were definitely many times where I was like, I know how to go through retrograde. I've practiced this, and I'm gonna take anything that comes at me and any delays, with grace, and that was of course my goal. And I was sharing that with you also, because it really does help get through without like having any major breakdowns. And I don't want it to sound like I'm that person who's like blaming retrograde. However, these things do seem to just happen. I mean, it's just this is cosmic energy. We're affected by the cycles of the moon. Like, our bodies are mostly water. The oceans are connected to that. Like, Mercury is a very close planet. Like, we have like the chemicals of stars in us. So to think that we have no connection and that it has no effect on us just kind of seems silly to me at this point, when there is some science to back up our connection to the universe and to the planets. So just be aware, like, when it goes direct, we don't want to be just like, yeah, like, even though, like, we want to remember that there's still kinks being worked out in those last couple weeks, if there were some lessons that you didn't learn, and nobody comes out of it unscathed, is my point. I've definitely had my moments, but I've definitely, the more retrogrades go on, and the more I'm just kind of tapped into it and prepared, I have less moments during it. And also, it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind, and it has kind of allowed me to just, like, not try to control so much. And that's a lot about it, is, like, really just, like, trusting where you are, trusting that you're supported by the universe and spirit and the divine, and that these things are happening for a reason, too. These delays are happening for a reason. The miscommunications are happening for a reason. It's funny because I was trying to think of an example of when these things are meant to happen. And the thing I thought about, I can't say for sure that this happened to me during retrograde, but it was a very retrograde, or I should say Mercury retrograde, because not all retrogrades are the same. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this was a very Mercury retrograde moment. I was like 24, I think. Yeah, I would have been about 24, 25. My mom, I lived in New York for a couple years, and when I decided I wanted to come home, because I was too sensitive for New York, it was great, but it was too much. My mom came and picked me and all my stuff up, and we've been doing road trips for all my life, so she's like a pro driver across country, and she just, like, got her snacks. She barely ever has to stop to pee. Like, she just, like, drives. And she picked me up, and so we packed all my stuff up, and we decided to, like, make a trip of it on the way back. Like, we love road trips. What are we going to see on the way back? So, of course, from New York to Colorado, we had to stop at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is actually in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's where the first rock and roll radio station came from. And if you ever remember the Drew Carey show, like, and their whole thing about, like, Cleveland rocks, like, there's a history there of kind of where rock and roll music, like, the expansion of it really started. And I love rock and roll. I love all music, but there's so many aspects to rock and roll, and it's heavily its influence is so heavy in other types of music. And on a side note, I highly recommend the PBS documentary Rumble, because that really explores how the majority of our rock and roll and, like, rhythm and blues music actually is, its roots are mostly with Native Americans, and there's a lot of roots to rock and roll music that is directly tied to Native American indigenous tribes drumming and the rhythms of their drumming. And it's really cool. Rumble, like, deep history of rock and roll documentary. Go watch it. Understand where your music comes from. Miles Davis is also the reason why we have, like, electronic music and jam bands. So go watch a documentary about Miles Davis too. Anyway, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland, Ohio. I am, like, we are so excited. we called my brother when he was there, and he's like, how dare you call me? I'm so jealous. Like, I can't believe you guys would go without me. And we're like, it was an opportunity. I'm so sorry. Like, and so we're walking up to it, and it's this really cool, like, pyramid-shaped building, and they have, like, a featured artist on one floor of the museum. And the featured artist was Bruce Springsteen. And, you know, nothing against the boss if you are a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I am not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan. And there's definitely, like, I appreciate his contribution to music a little bit more now. There's a couple of his songs I really like, and there's a couple of his songs that I really like that other bands cover, and I'm a fan of other bands that have been influenced by him, but at the time I was like, I do not like Bruce Springsteen. I don't care that much about the boss, about this, like, white boy American dream. Like, even then I was just like, blah. So we walk up, and it's fucking Bruce Springsteen, and I'm just like, really? Really right now? Like, his face is, like, on this banner on the building, and I'm just so, like, oh, like, my mom's like, come on, like, it's okay, like, we just won't go on that level. And I'm like, yeah, but now we're not going to see the whole, like, museum. So that place is way bigger than you think it is, and there's so much to look at. I mean, my mom and I were literally, like, tearing up when we walked in there because of, you feel so close to these artists that have just, like, helped shape our lives and our society. I think we don't even, I mean, we give, like, musicians and stuff a lot of credit, but even then, like, there's so much influence there. And it turned out that we didn't even have time to see the whole museum. And guess what floor we were able to miss? Bruce Springsteen. So it worked out. That's my point. Short story long. My point is that I initially saw this obstacle as, like, an affront to me and my experience and like all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, when I was young, I took it really personal, and I didn't let it, like, really, I hope I didn't. Looking back now, I don't think I let it completely overshadow the whole experience. But it wasn't until the end where I was like, well, you know, we were like, well, this is perfect, because if that had been somebody that I really admired, like if it had been like Prince or something, like, I would have been so sad if I would have been even sadder than it being the boss if I had to, like, miss any part of that museum. 'Cause it was such a great experience. And I could have, they don't let you take pictures in there. And I could have sworn I took a secret picture of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Like, they have, like, an actual wall in there. And I don't know what happened to that picture. So, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's doing something. Anyway, just joking. So I'm sharing this story with you because I hope that it relates to something that you're going through. That a lot of these things that we think are happening to us, in fact, in the bigger grand scheme of things, a lot of the time are happening for us. And unfortunately, there are some really horrible things that do happen to us. And that's, you know, when we become victimized. But there's a lot of things out there that we get so worked up over that really aren't worth our energy, and that a lot of time work out in the long run. So I hope that gives you, like, a little bit of perspective about what all these lessons and what, like, everything that's kind of, like, been stirring up is really there for. So, speaking of retrogrades, and how retrogrades, depending on what planet it is and what sign it is, can be very different and can give us a very different energy. Each planet has a different energy associated with it. Each sign has a different energy associated with it. So on June 20th, right before we begin Cancer season, Jupiter goes retrograde in Pisces, and then it switches to Aquarius on July 28th. Happy birthday, Mom. Until October 18th. And so Jupiter retrograde is not something to be, afraid of. Like we kind of get afraid of Mercury retrograde. I noticed that the witchy spirit world is really trying to like get people to stop fearing it so much. Like we joke about it and like all this kind of stuff, but like there's really magical things that happen during it that are supposed to happen that really help us like on our path in life, and what our path of purpose and where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing. So Jupiter in retrograde will be really nice, especially in Pisces and Aquarius. These are the two most evolved signs, and they really like Pisces really sees the world through rose-colored glasses, and Aquarius is the philosopher, and they're both kind of like weird, but in good ways. I've seen, even though like you're really not supposed to, like water and air is not supposed to go together, and you're really not supposed to be with someone like in romantic relationships of the sign right next to you. Pisces and Aquarius, though, I've seen go differently. There's like something about they both have like such a deep understanding of their own emotions usually, and also of just like sitting back and letting people be who they are. And so with retrogrades, like that means that the planet is seemingly moving backwards through these signs. So when we kind of start out, it's going to be a nice little Jupiter and Pisces, like very loving. Both these signs are very expansive. There's some dreaminess to Pisces. So I feel like it's gonna really kind of bring up more creative goals, or it's going to bring up like those like secret subconscious goals and visions for your life that you want. And then it's going to show like, and then as it's moving in Aquarius, we're really going to be looking at how do we make that a reality? What are the things that have happened to you, especially during this entire, and we're only in Cancer season, like Aries season is the beginning of the astrological season, and there's so much that has happened, and so much of like clearing the way for everybody to really kind of show you where you're supposed to be. Like it just felt like a little bit more direct energy after the last year of the pandemic and us not knowing like what's going to happen, where are we going to be, and it's still feeling a little bit like we're still not sure what the future looks like, but we're all personally kind of getting a little bit more focused on just who we want to be and how we want to show up in this world and what kind of impact do we want to make, and so we're really going to keep diving into that, which is really cool. Like as we go on, we're just going to get deeper and deeper into ourselves and more connected to the natural energies of the world. And there's a lot of just like powerful transitions going on. And I'm sure you felt a lot of that. Like Gemini season was just full of so much energy. And it really challenged our communication with ourselves, with each other. Really looking at, how things can be improved. Do you want to improve them? Do you just need to walk away from this? Do you need to let people walk away? So there's so many, so I don't want to say challenges, definitely challenges that come up from it, but a lot of reflections about the duality of life, the spectrum of life, looking at our cognitive dissonance, having to look at that, and also sometimes having to hold two different ideas at the same time and trying to find the middle ground of them. A lot of alchemic, mercurial. I love that word, but I can never say it. Mercurial, which is perfect. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. We had a really strong Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. So It's meant, these things are meant to move you. It's meant to shake you up so that you're not stuck where you're not supposed to be. So, let me know where you're at. Let me know how retrograde went for you. Comment below. And then one last thing before we get into your tarot scope. I want to talk about where Cancer shows up in tarot. In the major arcana, Cancer is represented by the Chariot. I love the Chariot. The Chariot's one of my favorites. The Chariot actually showed up to me when it told me that we were supposed to be in this house. We just were so torn when we were house hunting that I started pulling cards for each house, like when we thought we were going to make an offer, like what's this supposed to be? And it was crazy how clear it was that, like, no, this is not it. And then Chariot came up for where we were supposed to be, home. And I feel like the Chariot and the Four of Wands are like the ultimate, like, home cards. Like you are like where you're supposed to be. Home is where the heart is, all that sort of thing. And the Chariot is representative of Cancer because, like the Chariot, the crab carries its home wherever it goes. And Cancer is really good at that. Cancer is the baby water sign. They're the first water sign in astrology. And so their personal relationships and their home life is very important for them. And they really want to feel comfortable wherever they are. So they have a tendency to really seek out those environments and people that are going to make them feel comfortable and at home. And so if you have a Cancer in your life, you probably have seen what can happen when they don't feel stable. They can be very emotional because they are a water sign. And unfortunately, they are known as they can be known as a little bit of a crybaby of the astrology when they're in their shadow. But they are very loving, usually. I was going to say open. They're open. It takes a while for them to open up, but once they find people to open up to, the, like, floodgates just come out. So the Chariot's cool too because it's representative also of there's still some duality energy that we're even experiencing now, because we are still in the shadow of Mercury in retrograde. Over the beginning, like the first half of Cancer season, we're still being called into this duality energy and this expansion and contraction and how to be more purposeful with that, and how to be more purposeful, and to not just take any opportunity that's in front of us, and to only really go to places where we're comfortable going. And that's okay. These are a lot of what's going on too is about people learning what their own personal boundaries are. Oh, sorry, the neighbor's dogs are fighting. So, what was I going to say? Duality. Because here too with the Chariot, you have like the light and shadow representative, and sometimes it can be pulling you in different ways. But we're both. We have both. Like in indigenous traditions, they talk about like you have two wolves inside you, and which one are you going to feed? I'm sure you've heard that quote a lot. So this is very much about like choosing paths of the heart, but just like a lot of the time that's just like what feels good to you. And if there's places that you're being invited to or like opportunities that are coming to you and it just doesn't feel right, I'd say go with that. Especially now, like this is really about kind of being in our feels and not being ashamed of that. really trying to dissolve the people pleaser and putting ourselves first. And I think that can be kind of a challenge with Cancer because the people around them are so important to them, but this is going to be important for everyone because of boundaries. I remember what I was going to say earlier, because boundaries with other people are very important. But I've noticed lately that if you don't first have good boundaries with yourself, if you don't have boundaries with yourself, then how are you going to have good boundaries with other people? If you don't have boundaries set with yourself on how you're going to treat yourself or how you're going to prioritize yourself, then how can you tell somebody no when you don't want to do what they want you to do? Because then we get taken advantage of. Then we're putting ourselves in situations that are going to drain us and are not where we're supposed to be. Okay? So we're really needing, I mean, we always need to tap into this energy. I was like, well, we're really needing this Cancer energy right now. Well, of course we are. That's why we're in this cycle. Okay. So let's get into it. So I lied. One more thing before I get into your individual tarot scopes for the signs. I usually pull like a card for the collective at the end. And I know I think I pulled these last time, but I really was just called to pull one of these postcards from Spirit at the beginning for some reason. So let's do that. Dearest you, we are sending you waves of love and joy as we watch you reap the rewards of your tenacity and faith. We know how long it has taken for you to reach some of our goals, and that you've had disappointments along the way. Right now, we suggest you take a deep breath and fill yourself up with gratitude and tune into the vibration of well-being. Temporary conditions may be trying to hypnotize you into seeing something else as your reality, but we know that happy rewards are on their way to you even now. Change is the only constant, so be open to it. You will achieve your dreams and more, we promise. But more important, your happy rewards will be gathered up in the small moments, the gentle breezes, the soft kisses, and the quiet commitments. Your happiest moments will be on the journey itself, not in arriving at any destination. You are surrounded by so much love and care. Can you feel us? Oh, I love these so much. They really are like love notes from the divine and from Spirit. So funny, because that is literally the theme that we're just coming out with, is change is the only constant. And that is why we do need faith and tenacity. Faith can come up in many different ways. It's not just a religious word. We have to have faith in our families, in our jobs. We have to have trust and faith in ourselves. And trusting that things are really going to work out. It really does. The law of attraction, there really is something behind that. There really is something behind you get what you put out. Karmic law, there's so many explanations for it, different ways of expressing it, that energy. But I've definitely noticed in my many years of learning who I am spiritually and emotionally, that the more I trust things are going to work out, and I do focus on the good, and I find gratitude in for what I have, the more things work out. And I can say that because I was that person for a long time. My mom tried to tell me what the secret was when that came out, and I rolled my eyes. It's like, there's no way that this is a thing. There's no way, like, shit just happens, and I'm just doomed to have shitty things happen to me. And the more I thought that, the more they happened. And the more I realized that I got it pretty good, and I found things to be thankful for, the more that it worked out. All right, let's do this. Hey, Pisces. So good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's see what this season's pulling on for you. Whoa. A lot of cards just trying to come out there. I only need... Ooh, there we go. Oh my god, I only need a couple. One. Let's start with one. Oh. This came up for Leo. But not as their initial card. For like a clarifier. So let's start talking about this. So, 6 of Cups in reverse. This is interesting, Pisces, because I feel like this energy normally would be very easy for you to tap into. It would be very easy for you to like see the world from a child's eyes, to be childlike, creative, intuitive, wondrous, to have a wondrous view of the world, you know, before we are like jaded and bitter and cynical from the hardships and traumas of life. So it does kind of just feel like maybe that's where you're at. Like things have just really gotten you down. And you are not in your best when you're down, Pisces. But it feels like a lot has happened. And it feels like it's totally fair to feel that way. And I just, for some reason, my eye was drawn to the white flowers and I heard surrender. And that's come up for a few signs already. And the main theme for everyone is really like getting permission, universal permission, to focus on yourself, to fill your cup. And look, all these cups are like trying to dump out all these pretty flowers. Look, they all have pretty flowers in them. And white flowers to me means surrender, purity. I want to say love, but that's not necessarily the word I'm looking for. Ooh, I can see the moon just through my window slats. And then you can see the tree branches over. It looks really cool. And that's what I'm talking about. Wondrous view of seeing things like that and just like being like a kid. Speaking of kid-like wonder, there was a frog, there was a toad. It was actually a toad, a boreal toad, we think, in our yard. And I scared it and saw it like run away, and I was like, oh, is that a bunny? And I look over and there's a huge toad. And I was like a kid. I was like, oh my god, there's a toad. Oh my god, look how big and fat and cute he is. Oh my god, I want to touch him. Oh my god, I want to pick him up. And I ran in and got my phone and took a bunch of pictures of him and then put some water out there for him. I don't think he used it. And I'm sending the pictures to my mom and Chris, and I was just like, oh my god, you guys look. Like, I felt so, like, blessed. And then there was a snake in the yard yesterday, which freaked me out last night. But, again, so abundant. Abundance is everywhere. So this feels a little bit like there needs to be, like, almost like blinder. Like, it's like all these things that have been happening just made you, like, put blinders up. Like, oh, this... It was like one finger at a time. Like, this thing happened, and this thing happened, and then 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 this thing happened, and now we're like, nope. Not looking at any of it. Right here. That's all we're doing. Right here. No good. It's no good. You gotta come out of that. Gotta come out of that. Let's see what else comes up. Really quick. Oh, interesting. 9 of Cups. 8 of Swords reversed. Oh, I'm sorry. 9 of Cups reversed. And the 8 of Swords. So, again, we're having a big theme throughout this, too, is so many cups and swords coming up together. And it's really cool to see those, like, patterns emerge in different ways and how we're all kind of tapping into the same energy, but it's affecting us all slightly different. So if you're watching for your moon and rising sign too, like you'll see that there's crossover in the energy, and that's because we're all experiencing the same energy. It's just a little different. And there's a lot of this like head and heart stuff happening. It's like between all the Gemini season stuff and the retrograde crossing over, and then Cancer season having us in our feels, and there's really like a balancing that's happening. And we just go through that every now and then. Things just have to be rebalanced. So there is something about like your cups are just feeling depleted. Your cups feeling depleted. It just like I'm sorry, Pisces. I feel for you. I do. I really do. Because I've been feeling this too. Where it's just like one thing after the other, and you're just like, how do I hold on to hope and faith, and how do I keep my cup full, and how do I contribute and at this in a positive way, and the thing is too is that like sometimes when they're reversed they can reference the card before, and then you have the 5 and the 8 of Cups, and those are like the most challenging cups cards, I believe, are the 5 and the 8, because the 5 is like grief and things being overshadowed by grief, and clearly your inner child is being affected by your grief. And then the 8 of Cups is like walking away from things. And if we're in these reversals, like those things are still affecting you. But we have to remember to try not to stay in our shadow. As water signs especially, we can get into the depths and it can be really hard to get out of it. And we can wallow without realizing we're wallowing. And that's where this little gal comes up. Because then you're feeling stuck in this place. And the thing is that you are the only one who can unstick yourself. You're the only one who can pull yourself out of the depths and into the light. She's very loosely bound in this card. And the options for freedom are all around. And see how there's even water in this, so there's still like this emotional piece here. This is being stuck of putting ourselves in this position, unfortunately. I don't think you started it this way. I really do believe that it's things outside your control that led for you to feel this way. But now that you feel stuck there, you have to know that you're the only one who can pull yourself out. You're the only one who can fill your cup back up. You're the only one who can cut yourself free. You're the only one who can reconnect to your inner child. You're the only one who can let go of those things that no longer serve you. You're the only one who can restore your happiness. There are other people and things around us that can help, but it's really our choice. You're in a, this is a, it's feeling a little low, but no major arcanas. So it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And Cancer season is your universal permission to focus on yourself. This is the perfect time to refill your cup, to heal your inner child. Ooh. Patience. See? This is the Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. Patience. Because only time can heal all wounds. I never thought I would be this person that's just like cliches and these like sayings and these things that like they used to annoy me so much when I was young. Like, whatever. But it's a thing. Time heals all wounds. So many things that we go through, we just have to wait to go through them. The green corn moon. So I'm assuming it's like a spring moon. 36. Let's see. Enjoy the journey, not just the destination. The time has come to learn patience and avoid the lure of instant gratification. Slow down. Take your time. Things are happening. You just can't see it yet. Be loving and patient with your body. The affirmation: I take my time to enjoy the journey. Patience is a kind of faith in foreseeing. We might see the seed, but we foresee the flower. We might see the book on the table, but we foresee the degree at the end if we read them. If we think physically, we might feel pain of a hard workout, but foresee and have faith in the muscle and fitness levels we will build. Patience is a form of experiencing the process of fruition. For some of us, we choose what is quick and easy. We may choose activities we know we will be good at. These require no big process, no great challenge over time, and no great achievement, even if we are good at them. More difficult is a kind of patience and mastery, where the skills or learning take time to accrue. And this is where the beauty of patience is born. When we truly realize the power of patience, we understand the power of gaining something incredibly deep and embedded. Rather than the quick hit of instant gratification, there is great power in going slow. Growing slow too. There is also the lifelong benefit of the power of trusting that you can hold a focus for a time for something big. For some of us, learning a physical skill enables us to fall in love with our bodies again, seeing it change and try over and over. We recognize its magnificence in all its weirdness, wonkiness, strength, weakness, and inherent wisdom. We get to feel the process and the miracle. And if our body doesn't quite get it, and we run out of patience, well, nasty self-talk is the last thing I would throw at it. After all, my body is not my enemy. Instead, I throw compassion and trust at it. The compassion that it is doing its best right now, and the trust that it will get me to where I want to go, even if that is eventually. I've learned to be patient. The green corn moon encourages us to watch for growth and enjoy patiently the journey of growth. While we may not yet be at fruition, we are on the way. Companion stone is jade. See, I told you it would be okay. And I think it's, everyone's used to you guys being so positive and like on the go and like willing to show up and willing to be there, and I think that means that sometimes we can overlook that you're still a human and you still have emotions and experiences, and And it's okay for that to affect you sometimes, and it's okay to be sad. So I just want to say that I see you, and I understand, and I see that your experience and your sadness is valid. Oh, I think I hear the cat. And this is just a moment in time. And you will get to the other side, and you will be your sparky loving self again. Okay? Okay, Pisces. See you in Leo season. Well, that is your Taroscope for Cancer season 2021. Thank you again so much for being here. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that little notification bell, like, comment, share. I want as many people to know all of it. I am here for you. Hope to see you next time. Bye.